In the previous video, we were talking about attribution theory and how that's a theory that helps explain student success and failures. And the idea is I need to listen to my students and they'll tell us a lot about their motivation. And what we find is that with attribution theory, that students routinely explain their success or their failures related to one of four areas: ability, effort, task difficulty, or good or bad luck. Okay? Just listen to what our students say. They say things like, when they do really well, they say things like, well, I just really good at math. I just get it. Math's always come easy to me. When you hear people talk about effort, they're like, oh my God, I've been studying all weekend. I probably put 15 hours of studying before that test. Task difficulty. You hear things like, oh man, that test was really easy. Thank God it was true false. I could really guess on a lot of stuff and I did well. And I tell you about that. And then good or bad luck is sometimes they'll say the reason they were successful was because the teacher graded really easy. I was lucky. They didn't look at that closely or whatever it might be. But these are the general attributions that we see from our students, and they tell us stuff, right? You have to listen to them. I watch their behaviors. I listen to their words. And when I hear those two students, the one in the previous video that sister came into town, they stayed out too late, they didn't get any sleep or didn't get to bed late and then overslept and didn't study, they're telling you a lot. Other students telling you equally a lot when they say, I've been studying for hours, for days, I can't get it, I took the notes, all of that stuff. And when I'm listening, what am I listening for? I'm listening for these things. And the book talks about this as well. I'm listening for a student's locus of control, stability, and control. And locus of control and control are two different things. Locus of control is whether they internalized it or externalize it. For example, a locus of control, you listen to words like I didn't, I. They're telling you that they're internalizing this. The students that have a locus of control that is external, they're saying things like, well, the teacher or the test. So you listen to that. For instance, that one person who did really poorly because her sister came into town, she could have said one of two things. She could have said, I didn't do really well because I went out late, I stayed up late, I slept in, I didn't study because my sister was there. But she's saying, I. She's internalizing. The locus of control is within. Or she could have done it this way. My sister. My sister made me. My sister did this. My sister. That would be an externalizing of control. Listen to the student who did poorly. The student who says, I don't get this. I study, I take notes, I do everything, I don't get this. The locus of control is internal there too. It's coming from within the learner. They're saying, I don't get this. Well, who am I worried about? The one I'm worried about is the one who's saying, I've studied for days, I take notes, I do everything, and I still don't get this. They're starting to demonstrate that learned helplessness. And I know the patterns of behavior associated with that. That's the student that concerns me. The other student who says, I went out too late because my sister was in town and blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking, okay, she internalizes, she recognizes that she owns it. It's her responsibility. But is it stable? Or is it going to always be like that? Or might it change the next time? Yeah, it'll probably change. She won't go out with her sister again. She knows what happens. Does she feel like she has a sense of control over that going forward? Yeah, she knows what to do and what not to do. What about the student who did really poorly, though? I don't get this. I never get it. They internalize that locus of control. Locus is location, locus of control is from internal. Stability, it ain't changing. She doesn't see herself ever getting smarter or better at this. And then the other student, control, she doesn't feel like she has any control over it. She does everything she can and she just doesn't get it. Who are you worried about? I know who I'm worried about. You have to listen to your students. They tell you things like, oh, that teacher, listen to him. The teacher just doesn't like me. Didn't do well, teacher does. Locus of control. Oh, it's the teacher. Externalize it. Stability. Is it stable? Yeah, they don't like me. They never like me. It ain't going to change. Do they feel like they have no control? No, they don't have any control over that. Here's the deal. It's the teacher. It's never going to change. And I have no control. How is their motivation affected? Why would you, right? Listen. Oh, it's the test. All those tests are so hard. The tests are always so hard. I can't do well in that class. Locus of control, it's not me, it's the test. External. Stability, it's the test. The tests are always hard. I can't do well in that. Control, I have no control over those tests. They're just too hard. So why try? Just give up, right? Listen to your students. They tell you everything. And we have to be careful about what we say as teachers because we communicate expectations sometimes. When we say things about students' performances, listen, you'd be surprised. We see gender differences in attribution theory. You know what we see? We see girls and boys are very different in the way that they attribute their success and failures. When boys are successful, they oftentimes attribute their success to ability. What do you want me to say? I just got it. I just got it. And when boys fail, what do they attribute their failure to? Effort. Well, if I tried, I would have done fine, but I just didn't try that hard. You're like, wait a minute. Girls, on the other hand, when they fail or when they succeed, what do they attribute their success to? Generally, effort. I study really hard. I work really hard. And when girls fail, ability. I just don't have it. You might not think that's a big deal. They're the opposite of each other. Oh, it's a big deal. It's a big deal because the boys tend to protect their academic identity really well. I admire that. When they succeed, they just got it. What do you want me to say? And when they fail, well, I would have got it if I tried. It's like, man, they win. Heads they win, tails they win. It doesn't matter. They win. Girls, when they succeed, it's because of their effort. They tried really hard. And when they fail, it's because of their ability. Think about this. What happens when they try super, super hard and they fail? They attribute it to their ability. How do they undo that? How do they change it? They can't. You know why? There's no more effort they could have put into that than what they did. That means they just don't have it in this area, and they're not going to try. You have to listen to what you say. Teachers oftentimes, they actually perpetuate some of this stuff. We say things like boys, not intended, no malicious intent. Some stuff happens at a very young age. We start to hear boys, when boys are like, oh, you're really smart. Okay, oh, you're super smart. And then you hear a lot of things with the girls. Teachers say, oh, good job. You must have studied really hard. Well, why do we say that? We find that teachers do actually have a different disposition for boys than they do for girls sometimes. Boys, we compliment their natural aptitude and ability, and with girls, we compliment their effort. So as a teacher, the idea is I have to watch their behavior, those patterns of behavior, but I have to listen to what they say, and I have to listen to what I say because I'm communicating expectations about the students' motivation and their behavior. And that's what attribution theory. That's the primary function of attribution theory is to help us understand this stuff. Okay. The last thing that I want to talk about is, and I have it in a slide, is how do we pull all this stuff together? How do we pull it all together as a teacher and say, okay, Eric, you've talked a lot about motivation, some theories, and what we remember Harry Wong. He talked about what does it mean to be an effective teacher, and he identified 3 things that effective teachers routinely do. He said, 1, they're good classroom managers. 2, they teach their students to a level of mastery. And 3, they have high expectations. I like that message. It applies for everybody, K through 12, simple message, 3 basic ideas. When you are teaching in a classroom, coaching on a football field, volleyball court, dance, cheerleading, musical orchestra pit, choir, whatever it is that you're doing, and you look at some of your students and they struggle motivationally, you can oftentimes look at your instruction, look at what you do, and oftentimes find exactly the motivational variable or thing that you're doing that is not helping them meet their goals, right? And what I like to do is, and I said this in a PowerPoint, I've got it broken down into 3 separate variables. Okay, Keep it simple, right? How do we promote student motivation? You got three things to look at. One, instruction variables. How do I teach? Two, teacher characteristics. How do I present myself? And three, what kind of climate do I create? How do I teach? How do I present myself? And what kind of climate do I create? Those are the three things. And if you're struggling motivationally, the students are not doing well, struggling in that area, ask yourself that question. In which area might I not be underserving them? Instruction, what are we talking about? Introductory focus. Do I teach with a focus? Do the students know where we're going? Do I personalize the information to the student? Can they relate to it? Can I connect to it in some ways? Do I personalize it with stories? Do I get the students involved? Is it me talking at them, or is it me engaging them in discussion? Do I ask them questions? Are they involved in the learning? Engagement. And then lastly is reinforcement. Do I reinforce their behaviors? When they participate, when they ask questions, when they do well, what am I doing? Instructionally, do I get them focused? Do I personalize it? Do I involve them? Do I reinforce them? That's the things that we do instructionally. That's your question you ask there. Secondly, teacher characteristics. How do I present myself to my students? Am I a good model? What am I modeling in this classroom? When you think about it, do I like what I do? Do I come to work energetic, excited, liking the material? Do I demonstrate enthusiasm in the classroom? Because nobody wants a Debbie Downer as a teacher. Nobody wants to sit there and listen to a teacher say, oh, and then today we got to do this, Bueller. It's like, oh my God, I just can't wait to get out of this class, right? No, we need enthusiasm. Expectations. Do you maintain high expectations for your students? Do you think that each one of them can be successful? If you start saying that they can't be successful, it's very easy for the students to realize that you don't expect much of them, they won't give you much in return. And then lastly is warmth and empathy. You demonstrate, are you approachable? Are you accepting? Do they know that you care about them? So from a teacher standpoint, personalized from a personal characteristic standpoint, are you a good model? Are you enthusiastic? Do you have high expectations for them? Do you seem warm and empathetic to their needs and listening to them? You do those things. That's the teacher characteristics. The last variable that we look at, how do I teach? My own personal characteristics of how I present myself in the classroom. The last one is climate variables. What kind of classroom do I create? Do I have a classroom where there's a sense of order and safety? The students know that there is a certain routine and what's acceptable and not acceptable. Do the students feel like they're safe in the classroom? Do I check for comprehension? Do I teach to comprehension? Do I ask them questions? Do I check for understanding? Do I look at them when I see that they're struggling and look to improve and help their comprehension? Success. What am I doing to help them be successful? Remember I said that the first week of class. My soapbox that I like to get up on top of sometimes, and I say, our job isn't that hard. Our job is to help our students be successful most of the time. Not all the time, most of the time. Success is a great self-efficacy builder. With success, you feel like you can. And when you can, you try. And when you think those high expectations meet with more success, more motivation. And lastly is challenge. Do you challenge your students in the classroom? Do you ask them questions? Do you expect more? Do you create disequilibrium? Do you want to make them, encourage them to get out of that state of disequilibrium to make sense of the world, make sense of the classroom, make sense of the classroom content? Challenge. So I think about our classroom. I think about instructionally. I think about who I am. Do I have a safe classroom? Do I challenge them? Do I check for comprehension? And lastly, do I create success? Because with more success equals more motivation. So that's how we take a look at those motivational variables and pull it all together as a teacher. Okay. Any questions? Don't hesitate to reach out to me related to this unit.